Hi everyone, I hope you're well and having a great day. Welcome to our presentation and thank you for being here with us today and being part of our research presentation. So now I would like to introduce ourselves. My name is Pramisa Khatri and my research partner name is Dylan Osman. And our research project title and focus is on how do predictable daily routines support the emotional regulation in early childhood education. Our research focused on how predictable daily routines can support the development of emotional regulation in early childhood settings. Emotional regulation is basically helping children recognize their feelings, express them appropriately, and manage them in a safe way. Impact of predictability is when children know what's coming next, they feel secure and manage big emotions more easily, right? For example, after greeting the child and saying goodbye to their family in the morning, our consistent morning settling routine involves offering activities like a drawing table, or reading a book, or engaging with the blocks and Legos. Even though the room is already set up for the day, we personally invite each child to do something that they really enjoy, like offering a cuddle if they want comfort and using warm and encouraging words. So these small predictable moments help children transition calmly and start their day with sense of security and connection. As well as national frameworks like UILF and NQS emphasize that safe, secure, consistent, and responsive environments are essential for building children's sense of belonging, resilience, and self regulation. So, in our practice, we observed that daily transitions, such as moving from outdoor play to group time or transitioning from a high energy activity to a quiet rest period, are often the most emotionally challenging parts of the day for the children. If routines are inconsistent or not responsive to individual needs, stress levels, anxiety, and behavioral changes tends to arise. While also the international literature recognizes the benefits of predictable routines, there is a gap in Australian practice based research that examines how educators manage the balance between predictability and flexibility in ECE settings. This research set out to explore that gap and identify strategies that work in practice. Our research main purposes are firstly, we wanted to investigate how predictable daily routines can be used intentionally to support children's emotional regulation. And this means thinking about the routines not just as a timetable but as opportunities to help children recognize, express, and manage their emotions in a safe way. And the second is we wanted to look at the strategies educators use to balance consistency with the flexibility. We know routines work best when they are predictable, but they also need to be responsive to individual children, to their moods, needs, and circumstances on any given day. And thirdly, we aim to capture educators' real world perspectives and experiences in Australia. There isn't much practice based research in this area, so hearing directly from educators about what works and why was an important way to address this gap in the Australian practice based research. And finally, for us as a practitioners, this research was also about our own professional growth. Engaging in practitioner based research gives us the opportunity to reflect deeply on our practice, learn from others, and refine the way we support children's emotional well being every day. So, our key research questions for investigate were first, how do predictable daily routines support emotional regulation in early childhood education settings? And second is like what strategies do educators use to make transition smoother and reduce stress for the children? And third is how can routines be adapted to meet diverse emotional needs while still aligning with our national frameworks like UALF and the NQS? And finally, how do family educator partnership contribute to consistency between home and the early childhood settings? The significance of this research project is for educators is it offers practical adaptable strategies for creating emotional supportive routines and helps them to reflect on their own practices, develop their professional skills and work more effectively. For children, it is about the predictable routines provides stability, a sense of belonging, and consistent opportunities to practice self-regulation in a safe and supported environment. And for families, it's about the continuity. When routines are similar between home and our early learning environment, children feel more secure and families feel more involved. So, this opens the door for shared strategies and collaborative, stronger partnerships with the families. Now, I would like to pass it to my research partner Dylan to continue this presentation and discuss about the research methodology that we used and some of the key highlights, findings, and implication from this research project.
To answer the research question, a qualitative design was chosen. The structured interviews were conducted with the educators from different early childhood services. The interviews give rich insight into everyday practices and decision making. Brown and Clark's thematic analysis applied to identify recurring patterns in their responses. All participants gave their consent and their identities remained confidential, but their voices were central for the finding of this research. One of the strongest messages from the educator was that consistency builds emotional safety. When the daily flow stays the same, children begin to anticipate the events, which reduce their anxiety. The educator described how family routines set a calm tone for the day. For example, greeting each child at the door, asking how they feel. This also aligned with the previous research findings that predictable structures are essential for the emotional stability in the group care. Interestingly, consistency alone wasn't enough. Flexibility was equally important as well. Educators spoke about adapting routines to match each child's emotional state on the day. For example, if child arrive upset, the group might delay the transition time to give them a little bit of extra time to settle down. This balance of structure and adaptability is key to inclusion and well-being of the children. A third theme was the value of working with the families to align routines between home and the service. When children experience similar routines in both environments, it strengthens their sense of belonging. One educator mentioned adjusting the rest routine to match families' preferred settling technique, which made the child much more comfortable. This also reflects with the previous research, but secure attachments were continued to across settings supports emotional security. Routines were also found to help children develop emotional independence. Several educators describe moments when children start leading transition themselves, reminding others what came next, or setting up activities without prompting. This ownership builds self regulation skills that last well beyond the early years. Finally, the use of verbal and nonverbal cues was a powerful tool for emotional preparation. Songs, countdowns, and repeated phrases gave children a clear emotional script for change. One example was Tidy Up song that signaled the end of free play. The children knew exactly what was happening and what to do next. These cues support both emotional readiness and then the sense of community as well. So, what does this mean for practice? Firstly, routine should be designed with the emotional responsiveness at their core, not just time management. Secondly, consistent cues can support transition, but they need to be paired with the flexibility for cultural and individual needs. And finally, partnership with the families are essential. They are the bridge between home and service settings. Before closing, I would like to acknowledge Ms. Harry for her valuable insight during the process and thank the educators who participated. Their contribution ensured this research stay grounded in authentic early childhood practice and meaningful for the profession.